We would lose train lines, bus lines, evening service. I don't even want to talk about it because of how devastating it would be.
I'm Kyle with Better Street Chicago, and we've been talking a lot about how our transit systems are facing a crisis. We have systems that don't work well together, but they're also facing a massive fiscal cliff of nearly $800 billion. And so today, we're here to talk about why we're facing this crisis and what we can do about it. And I'm joined here with an expert.
Hi, Kyle. Thanks for having me. Amy Rynell with Active Transportation Alliance in front of our state capitol in Springfield, Illinois.
We're here in Springfield today talking with legislators about how they need to step up and take action to save our transit systems. But can you talk a little bit about why we're facing such a massive fiscal cliff?
Our region's transit system is funded many ways. Importantly, the state provides about 17% of its operating support, and that is actually relatively low compared to cities and regions of our size. We see Pennsylvania, New York, Boston putting a lot more investment into their transit operations. So we're here working with the state of Illinois to get more investment to address our operational and funding crisis.
You know, a lot of people ask, why are we facing a crisis in the first place? So, COVID hit, ridership really tanked, and how has that impacted our transit system's funding?
The problem existed pre-COVID. We're just hitting it a little faster. So we have not been investing enough in transit. When COVID hit, we lost something really important, which is ridership revenue. The fares we pay for our rides are one of the key ways we support having bus drivers, having people at our stations, having train drivers. The federal government stepped in to help and keep transit systems across the country going, and that money's running out, and it's time for us to fix the problem for good.
So these are problems that we've been facing with our transit agencies for a while, but like you said, COVID made them a lot worse. What are some of the policy changes that we can make that can help us make up that fiscal cliff, but also fix the problems that predated COVID?
When we identify revenue options to get us to $1.5 billion, I want to talk about that in a minute, we need to make sure they're sustainable and they're revenue sources that grow over time. And ideally, revenue sources that are pro-climate and that encourage people to get onto transit. The other things we can do are policy fixes. Our legislators, our governor have been very clear that they want to see system reforms so that we're not back here in a few years.
So we know that we have really big problems and we have a lot of solutions that we can do to address them, but there's also urgency to get this done. What happens if we don't get this done this session?
We have till the end of May. That's coming up real quick. And if we don't have a funding resolution by the end of May, the transit agencies have to begin planning for cuts because their budgets are going to be due in a few months. Planning for cuts will be looking at what routes get reduced, what routes get cut, what staff positions are eliminated. The magnitude of the budget hole is such that those cuts would be devastating. I don't even want to talk about it because of how devastating it would be. We would lose train lines, bus lines, evening service, and so many folks who rely on transit to get their needs met will not have that as a solution. So we want to prevent that from happening, and we also want to keep our transit agencies focused on the future. There's a lot of good projects in the works, and if we have to have them turn their heads and pivot towards cuts, that means they stop building plans for things like bus rapid transit, for more nimble service in the suburbs and things like that we really want to see happening.
So different types of improvements like we've been seeing that are really encouraging, like CTA's frequent bus network or Metra's regional rail plan. Those are things that will stop dead in their tracks, no pun intended, and they'll have to immediately start planning cuts instead.
Yes.
That's a pretty dire situation.
Yes. So that's why we're here at the state capitol every single day working with our elected officials to find solutions urgently.
So we know that we're facing a nearly $800 million fiscal cliff, but we have been out here advocating for $1.5 billion, which would not only make up for that fiscal cliff, but give our transit agencies all sorts of new funding. What are the kinds of things that are possible if our legislators deliver that kind of funding for transit?
We have heard from riders across the region, they want things like more frequent service. For folks who are bus riders in the city, We have seen a decrease in our service speeds over the last 15 years because our buses are stuck in traffic. So we would be able to build the infrastructure improvements we need to give buses priority and speed them up. We would be able to help Metra make the connections to make regional rail possible, to go from the western suburbs to the northern suburbs. It unlocks the potential of our system. We have the bones. We just don't have the resources we need to get the service we deserve.
So you've been hearing a lot about the doom and gloom, but we have a plan that can secure a whole new era for public transit in Chicagoland. And we need you to get in the fight with us. Join us every weekend through the end of May to talk with transit riders about how we can save public transit. And make sure to head to the link in our bio to contact your legislator and let them know that you want them to save public transit.